Hello and welcome. This is Rooflemonger, my friends. Today we're talking about a little bit of perhaps controversial news put out by Capcom earlier. And this is in regards to the Capcom Pro Tour going forward in the future. And it's basically about the hitbox or leverless style controllers and what is or isn't allowed. So let's bring up the tweet. In anticipation of the 2023 season, Capcom has made the decision to update the Capcom Pro Tour rules in relation to leverless controllers, and this includes hitboxes as well. This was done to address consistency and fairness concerns. This rule change can be viewed at CapcomProTour.com. The complete rules for the season will be available closer to the start of the CPT. And of course there's a link, and we'll go over that in a moment. So we are going to go into the minutia in a moment, but just for my 2 cents before we dig into it later in the video, I don't think this is a change they maybe fully thought through. And overall, the community is definitely viewing this as a negative change. But we'll talk about that more in a moment here. Let's talk about what actually is changed here. So here's the rule set as it currently stands, and a lot of what was the previous rule set remains the previous rule set. The big change here is for how hitbox and otherwise leverless controllers work and how they read inputs for SOCD, simultaneous opposing cardinal directions. Basically, if you're hitting multiple directions at the same time, because these current controllers allow you to do that, how does it handle it? Now, the general consensus and the Capcom Pro Tour rules have been for many years, if when using your controller, if you hold left and right at the same time, left and right just simply equals neutral. Nothing happens, you don't move left or right, no go. And if you were to hold down and up at the same time, then up will take over. So left, right equals nothing, down, up equals up. And the big change is now down, up must also equal nothing, just like left and right currently do. And that's at the crux of the issue here. So changing what's been established for years and years as the standard into, well, something kind of different. If you play on a regular arcade stick, this doesn't affect you at all. If you play on a pad, this also doesn't affect you at all. And pads, by the rule set, are also still allowed to use cheating inputs. Only the hitbox/leverless style controller is at odds here. So, of course, on Twitter, there's a million hot takes, but these two, I feel, matter just a little bit more because they're two of the primary creators of these kind of controllers. First off, Junk Food Custom Arcades. These are people who make things like the Snackbox controller. And they say, cool! People play multiple games, each with different SOCD rules, which is part of the issue, which we'll talk about later. We will allow you to be in compliance with your micro in all conditions through an upcoming, already in progress, firmware update. We will also have a visual indicator of compliance. So as the makers of one of these products, they will eventually firmware update it so it'll work that way. Keep in mind, every single company has to do a separate update for their controllers. Now, conversely, from Hitbox proper, they state, please know that we empathize with all these new concerns and uncertainty for our existing and new customers. This is still a developing situation which we will assure you has our full attention. We are confident that we'll be able to provide a solution to our customers that will comply with any changes to the rule sets. While Capcom and Street Fighter are an important part of the fighting game community, they do not represent the community as a whole. The larger tournament community and its leadership have already ruled many times over that the current SOCD resolutions and our current controllers are appropriate for tournament play. We stand firmly by and believe that this standard, a standard which was set more than a decade ago and is still implemented to this day. Up plus down equals up. So the hitbox stance is basically, this is how it's been forever, why change now? And that's kind of where we're at right now. So my personal perspective here, before we get into some other things, is sort of the same. Why change now? And especially, once again, for the controllers, it's up to every single controller maker to be in compliance. And say if for whatever reason you aren't compliant, then your controller is effectively a dead brick now that you may have spent several $100s on. Like say for myself, for my money, because I spent my own money on this controller here, this is the Victrix model of leverless controller. So if Victrix does not update the firmware, then technically this tournament will be banned if I were to attend a Capcom Pro Tour event, which kind of sucks, right? Especially so because this is an officially licensed Sony product. This is not some third-party deal. This is officially licensed by Sony. That's why we got our lovely little guide button here. and a touchpad and all that, right? So there would be banning Sony first-party products in this case, if for whatever reason this doesn't get a firmware update. Now, besides that here, this is where I want to talk about how I think maybe this wasn't fully thought out, as it introduces actually quite a few new problems to Street Fighter 6 specifically, as it's the only Capcom Pro Tour game. So, say here in Street Fighter 5, one of the reasons why we're getting rid of this is because if I hold down back here with Guile, I can hit up and kick at the same time and get an instant flash kick, and I never had to let go of charge, right? Which is pretty strong. I get immediate charge back. I never had to let go of the button. Now, it doesn't work the same way with Sonic Booms, because if I just hit forward, it makes me go neutral. So I wouldn't get a Sonic Boom. But in the case of the flash kick, if I charge and just hit up and kick, I'll get it every time. So this is a strong technique for Guile players, especially. Like, this would be the main case. So now, in this current setup, what I would have to do, instead of just doing this, I would have to do this. And just let go of the down, which is not that big of a deal, right? So that's a positive case in removing this, is it will make flash kick a little less oppressive in Street Fighter 6. However, one of the aspects that's not fully thought out here is inputs they purposely took away in Street Fighter 6, like the famous 6-3-9 uppercut. So as it stands, 6 being forward, 2 is down, and if I hit forward and down at the same time, that's down forward, and if I hit 3, that's up forward. And the way Street Fighter 5 works and reads the buffer, that counts as an uppercut, which I know is weird, but that's how it works, right? And mechanically, this is the fastest possible human input you can put in. Like, you can make it 3 actual frames. So it's way faster than like stick going bah, 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 like that, right? It's infinitely faster. And in the case of Street Fighter 6, they went out of the way to disable that specific input. That's great. But if down and up become neutral again, what this means is the 6-2-3 input that allows the very fast uppercuts will now allow it again. Because this means when you do 6-2-3, it'll be forward, down, and then neutral, which means you're just holding forward again, right? So it'll be forward, down, forward, forward, which is an uppercut shortcut that does work in Street Fighter 6. And it's one you can't really take away, because like, if people are sloppy on their inputs, like, it's there for a reason, right? So the whole removing the fastest possible uppercut now will be reintroduced into Street Fighter 6 because of this specific change, something you tried to remove before. And some small other things, like there's some motions now that are like down, down, right? Like Chun-Li's up kicks in Street Fighter 6 are down, down kick. So this will introduce a shortcut now for SOCD, because down and then up at the same time, that's down, down. Right there, that's down, down. Because down, neutral, let go, down again. So yeah, we're going to be introducing a bunch of other sillier inputs now to remove the things you think you're trying to take away. And those are some examples off the top of my head. Like, I'm sure you can get way more nasty. Just I'm not creative enough to think of it off the top of my head right now. So it's certainly a decision. Let's put it that way. It's certainly a decision, but it's a decision for the most part I see most people are not happy with. Once again, if you play on pad or play on stick, this doesn't affect you at all. For my money, the only reason I really kind of switched over to leverless controllers is for health reasons, because my left wrist and forearm, they're not getting better with me getting older. Let's put it that way. Let's put it that way, right? So it's purely for health reasons I've switched over. And say for whatever reason, whatever controller I get does not get a firmware update, because a lot of them will not, let's just get real. That means if I were to attend a Capcom Pro Tour event in the future, I'd have to spend another $200, $300, $400 on another controller just to be in compliance. And that is the other big problem, the compliance. How do you make sure people play by the rules if this is the new rule? And the real answer to that is you don't and you can't. First off, many Capcom Pro Tour events will be online, and there's literally zero possible way to check. There's just no way it can be done, right? So online, it's Wild West. You can't do it anyways. There's no possible way to stop it. And offline at a physical tournament, that means you have to waste a lot of people's times manually checking everything, both TOs, organizers, anyone who's like officiating, the players themselves. And if someone was so inclined to want to dastardly trick them, they could just have a little switch, like a little SOCD switch built in or something. So, oh, whoops, compliant when you check, switch it off when they're gone, right? It's just really something, it's not enforceable. So that, on top of the fact it screws with so many controllers over the years that made sure to comply with the community standard of down plus up equals up over the years, just, oh, it's not good times, not good times. They want to stick to their guns? Well, we have no choice but to abide, but it'll be a rule that only applies for Street Fighter 6 and only in Capcom Pro Tour events, whereas every other game, it's a non-issue and it's totally fine. Basically, that's where we're at right now. So who knows how the story will develop, but right now, I know you got an opinion. If you watched this far, you definitely have an opinion one way or the other. You want to stop the dirty cheaters, or do you think it's too much? Post in the comments below, because I think discussion on this is very worthwhile. That said though, we're at the end of the video now, so thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well, and go out and play some fighting games.
Yeah.